Hello, Husker fans, and welcome to a very special presentation of Generation Red.
More numbers, more yards to those. Oh, they don't have them yet. Look at Tommy Frazier. How many tackles can one man break? Touchdown. Cross to the middle. Juggle. Diving touchdown, Nebraska.
Welcome to another episode of Generation Red, guys. I'm your host, Ken.
And I am your other host, Scott.
And we're here with our buddy Honke from the Go Big Redcast. We're going to review and take a look back at a fun evening we had on Friday in downtown Lincoln, seeing the Day by Day movie, which we all, I think, give a hearty thumbs up, 5 stars, 10 stars, whatever we could possibly give to the movie. It's absolutely worth going to see or finding a stream of it or whatever they end up doing with this. You absolutely should watch it. So, guys, man, that was fun Friday night. That was an absolute blast. We started off at Jake's Cigar Lounge. Honke met us there, and that started a string of enjoyable conversation, certainly around podcasting and around Husker football. And Honke, what did you think overall of the entire night?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad that they premiered it this way here at the Rococo. And Friday night, you're in a good mood. The work week is done, and so it's hard not to have a good time when you have an old fashioned in your hand. And you guys were enjoying some of the cigars there. That's a great place, obviously, to do it. And then the movie itself, I thought the crowd really added a lot to it because they were into it. I mean, there were people cheering when something good happened. They were booing when Switzer or somebody would come on the screen, and it was a fun environment, and the story is outstanding. So I didn't realize this until we saw it that night. I didn't realize it's like a 2-part series. I thought we were going to watch the movie, and really all we saw on Friday night was just the rise. So that pretty much was 93 and 94, and then there will be a second part that will be the last 3 years of the dynasty.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Scott, your overall impressions, being someone who didn't experience the 90s like we did, what did you think of seeing what it was that got us so passionate?
Well, just the overall experience of the night was just phenomenal. It was fun going to Jake's Cigars, get myself a non-alcoholic beer, and smoking some cigars, and then going went to B-Dubs and got myself some mango habanero traditional wings, of course, and some pretzel bites and all that fun jazz, and had some good conversation. Met with a couple people that Honke knew. Was it Mark and D?
Mark and D, they're from Columbus. That's right. My parents' friends. Yep. They came down for the movie too.
Yeah. So
they were sitting like a table over from us.
Yeah. Honke saw him right away, recognized him right away. So we went over and sat with them and had some good conversation, heard some good stories about some former players, with some, Pee-wee football leagues and all that stuff. So that was really cool. But the movie, man, my dad did a really, really good job growing up ensuring that I understood the illustrious history and culture that was Nebraska football in, I guess from my dad's experience, the 80s and 90s and throughout that dynasty period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie was it just shed a new light on a lot of the context and a lot of the individual performances and opinions within the locker room of individuals, which we'll get into that. But it was just awesome. It was crazy. Like one of the moments that I remember paying very close attention to was there was a gentleman sitting about 3 rows in front of us to our left down the aisle. And I could just see, even though I was only seeing from behind him, I could see him reliving all of those experiences that he remembered experiencing at the time, like the emotions, the ups, the downs, the pissed off, the ecstatic, like just watching somebody live that nostalgic nostalgic experience that was once in a lifetime, for me was just bone chilling. And then, yeah, just the fact that it's a 2-part kind of movie thing is great. I mean, there was so much left to be desired after it was done. But I think they did that on purpose. They really wanted to give you something to cure your satiation, but leave you kind of blue balled, like you kind of gotta, everybody that experienced that that movie, they're gonna go back and they're gonna see that next part, because it's like, oh yes, you got me hooked. Now I got to get another fix. So it was great.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. Some memories for me leading up to going to see the movie, obviously, was the great conversation we had at Jake's beforehand. And of course, we had another great conversation after we saw the movie. We went right back to Jake's, and that was an awful lot of fun. Though at that point, I'd had enough solution that tends to wipe memory that a lot of what we did at Jake's afterward, I don't recall, which might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. I don't know. But I was bummed, quite frankly. I haven't eaten at B-Dubs in so stinking long that I did not realize I ordered the street tacos because I'm not a huge fan of their wings for one reason or another. But man, it tasted like those street tacos were dipped in a vat of salt water before they were put out at the table. There wasn't a whole lot of flavor except salt. And I was really bummed that I didn't get carded at the Rococo Theater. And the guy kind of looked at me and he was like, well, Father Time is probably not your cousin or some shit like that. And I was like, what the hell does that even mean? But anyway, he put the band on me and off I went. But and then, of course, finding our seats just as the movie was getting ready to start, because we couldn't see him because it was dark and we didn't even know we needed to go up another level. So that was an adventure all its own. But by the time we planted our butts in seats, literally the movie started. It couldn't have been any more perfect.
Perfect timing.
And the movie itself, yeah, as you said, Scott, and as you said, Honke, it was just there wasn't a lot of dry eyes in the house at times, especially me. Every time Brooke would come on screen, still that one hurts so deeply, which is why the loss of Sam Foltz back in 2016 was yet another one of those where you go, why has this happened to the kids that just love and care and play for the team so deeply? But it does, and maybe it's for an example for the rest of us to do a little better and be a little bit better. But yeah, seeing Brooke on the screen was tough. The most poignant moment for me was when Dwayne Harris, when they started talking about recruiting and getting Frazier in here, and Harris was like, oh yeah, that boy was an asshole. I was like, well, we all knew this. We'd all heard the rumors that he was kind of a pain in the butt to deal with, and he just did not take any crap from anybody. But to hear somebody on his own team say, yeah, that guy was an a-hole, was pretty insightful. So I love the way they did it. I love the way they did the movie. They took an hour to set up the national championship season of 1994. And I also love the fact that you didn't have to live through, 40 minutes of the 70s and 80s leading up to the 90s. They got through the struggles with Oklahoma at the beginning of Osborne's career fairly quickly, and they got into the meat of it. Was when we kind of hit that late 80s, early 90s. We're losing all these bowl games in a row. We're wondering if he could ever win the big one. And then that recruiting class came in. The Sties, the Zadiskas, the Peter brothers, all those guys, the Wistroms and everybody like that showed up on campus. I was kind of surprised they didn't highlight Wistrom much for the 94 season, because he was a true freshman. He played a lot of special teams, and he did play quite a bit of defensive end backing up Harrison and Jones. But I imagine we'll see a lot more of him in the next one. So that's kind of the few things that stood out to me in the movie. Were there particular moments for you guys that really grabbed your attention in the movie?
I think the leadership in that 94 team, and really 95 or 93 as well, those two, because Trev was, highlighted quite a bit, and people forget Trev never won a national championship here, but he was, a huge part in that 93 season being 2 points away from getting one. And he really helped lay the foundation for it. But that 93 team and the 94 team, which were the main focus of this, the leadership on those two teams was just so incredibly strong. And I noticed, for me, the kind of had the waterworks going most of the night, just trying not trying to bawl my eyes out, and during a lot of it. But it took me back to, I can remember back in that time frame in Columbus growing up, and my parents' friend Mark, who was there at B-Dubs with us. I can remember my parents watching documentaries of 1970s, Huskers and Johnny Rogers, and there'd be some kind, it would evoke these memories for them since they lived through it 20 years earlier. And here I am now, 20 or 30 years now later, and it's the exact same thing. The memories of those games, I remember being at so many of them, and to see it now, being portrayed historically, it puts me in my place that I probably, don't need to be carded anymore, but also that, it was great to see it in that setting. I guess one memory is probably hard, but just the whole entire thing was so well done. And I know the second we walked out of there, I tweeted out to the Redcasters, I'm just like, go to this thing, get to this. You're going to want to watch it. And hopefully Josh Davis and the group that, have been part, behind putting it together. I think that they have to be hearing the feedback from people that this thing, at some point needs to be somehow digitally streamed or DVD'd or whatever the heck, something so that people that can't make it down here to see it get their hands on it too.
Yeah, hell, I'd donate to PBS if I knew I could get a DVD.
Yeah,
during Big Red wrap up sometime next year, if they throw that DVD at you for the $180 level, shoot, I'll do it.
In a heartbeat,
it'd be worth it.
And that's it had everybody on it. I mean, and they'd been doing it since 2019, and then there was delays because of COVID. So because of that, I mean, Bobby Bowden's interviewed for it, and he's been dead now for over a year. He was a part of this, and Switzer and you just name it. And then of course all of our former coaches, McBride was in it, and the group of players that they got together. I mean, it was really impressive, and they were open and honest, and the next one will be interesting because 95 is where you get into, obviously the Lawrence Phillips stuff and just, that year had a different impression nationally than what 94 we were still the good guys. We were trying to get Osborne's first ever win, and then of course by 95 we were being labeled nationally as the win it all, everything, and I know Coach Osborne really was happy to have this group put this show together as opposed to it being some 30 for 30 ESPN type of thing that would have sensationalized it. So it's raw, it's real, but it wasn't, in no way did I ever feel it was sensationalized.
It certainly didn't look like there was an agenda except to tell the story. Mm-hmm. That was it. And that to me is what documentaries and journalism is supposed to be, is just give you the facts, give you everything that happened and let you figure it out for yourself. And to me, it was very true to what I remember. Honke, you and I are different in a lot of ways in the sense that I never saw a game in Memorial Stadium until Oklahoma in 1995.
Oh, okay.
So, growing up in Arizona and not even becoming a fan until 1983, meeting my wife after she moved there in 88, and then moving up to Nebraska in 1990, it was hard to get to games, living on the salaries that we lived on at the time. And even back then, Oklahoma was $25 a ticket, and that was expensive for an end zone seat. And I didn't get the context of seeing all the games. I heard most of them. I saw the kickoff classic against West Virginia in 94. I remember that vividly because I couldn't wait to get home from church so I could watch the game. And then all the other games along the way. And then hearing Tommy Frazier get hurt and seeing that news report that he's out the rest of the season and he's got a blood clot and don't know if he'll ever play again. I'm like, crap, we did everything we could except win the thing last year. And now our best guy is sitting on the bench. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. And holy crap. Yeah. You know what? I think you've said it many times on your show. and I've heard it on other podcasts. Folks say that the 94 championship meant so much more than the other two, just from the sense of, number one, you beat Miami in their stadium. You score a 2-point conversion in the same damn end zone that you missed the 2-point conversion in the 1984 Orange Bowl. You vanquished that ghost. You finally got over the hump. You finally got it. And then the next year, and for the most part of 96 and 97, nobody could touch us. We were just that dominant. So that 94 team was truly remarkable to win every game, starting 3 different quarterbacks, one of them being a 5'8" fire plug from what, Wahoo, Nebraska. I mean, it's just such a remarkable story.
Yeah,
remarkable.
We look back on it now. Of course, it's 60-3 over 5 seasons from 93 to 97, and it's this great dynasty. And historically, we can look at it like that. The reality is, everything we just watched up to the end of this movie, to the end of the 94 season, you didn't know you were sitting in the middle of a dynasty as it was happening.
No.
We go undefeated in 93, but we're 17.5-point underdogs of Florida State. And as Albert said on it, they were so, in particular his class, they were so depressed that they didn't win the championship because they weren't going to get another chance. They were graduating, and also that you just never knew if we were ever going to get back. It had been 10 years since we played Miami in 83 for national championship, and this might have been the last chance for Coach Osborne. And so they felt like they really let him down. And then the 94 guys that are coming back, of course, that's the entire offseason of unfinished business. They have, the workouts with 1:16 on the clock, and all offseason, we're going to finish this thing off. And you go the whole season undefeated, but despite all the crazy injuries and everything that, all the adversity that they went through, and now you're going to go play Miami and you're down 10-0 against Miami. And I can remember watching that thing live and never feeling comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable when when Frank Costa threw the bomb at the end that got intercepted by Kareem Moss. There was still in the back of my head is it's going to bounce off someone and Miami's going to catch it and run it for 90 yards and tie it. It just wasn't until it was over. It's like, oh my God, we actually won. But then that was just one national title. I mean, that no reason to think, okay, we'll turn around and win 2 of the next 3 and have some of the most dominant teams that have ever played the game. So that's the weird thing, I guess, about dynasties and everything is while you're in them, you probably don't know it. It has to end for you to be able to look back on it historically. And that's obviously what we get to do here.
Right. Any other thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, the 3 things that I had kind of just running through my mind there was, from my perspective, being 27 and literally not experiencing any of this actually competently, because I was just a little little blob of human formation at that time. Was that one, it's like Tom Osborne takes over Bob Devaney, and there is a significant amount, like 10 plus years before you really start to see anything worth national championship contention, because we just always lost the big ones. And I'd heard that it took Tom Osborne quite some time before we were ever in that dynastic period, which Honke was saying that you didn't know you were in it at the time until it concluded after 97 pretty much. And it was just so captivating to watch the documentation of how much of a struggle it was to be a Husker fan through the 80s and the early 90s, of just, you're winning all of your games and losing maybe 1 or 2, but you just couldn't win the big one against OU. You couldn't win a bowl game for, what was it, like a 6-year stretch. And those were those contexts that I just didn't know about. All I knew was our dynastic period from 1994 to 1997 and the 93 team that almost won it all. And it was just so fascinating to just see that and then reflect on where we're at currently, and just kind of wow, there's completely contrasting differences. We were in a struggle bus like you guys were in a struggle bus of like, can we ever win the big one? And then right now the current struggle is, can we win a big one? Like any big one at all? And so it was just like, wow, like, but just reference points relative to where you're at in time. So it was just, that was one thing, was just the fact that Tom Osborne really did have a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and a lot of fans that had high expectations for him. And it just didn't seem to come to fruition. And then all of a sudden, which we haven't seen the second half, just boom, okay, we finally got through the adversity, should have won it in 93. We squeak away with it in 94 with a rattled and tattered, like team that had all of the potential to do so, but it was a matter of actually doing it. And Tom Osborne finally got his national championship that, Husker Nation at that time was so desperately craving, since, the 70s. Some of those old school fans that remembered the 70-71 years, like, they were like, when are we going to do it again? We have been dominant for the last 2 decades. When can we finally win the big one again? And then they finally did it. And that was like so bone chilling for me to watch, because it's like, okay, I didn't get to experience it, but this feels like experiencing it right now, especially looking around the room and seeing some of those old cats just getting teared up, getting choked up, getting angry, getting happy, raising their hands, banging their tables. Like, that was like, if there's anything that I've experienced that's close enough to where I felt like maybe I was there in spirit, like, that was it. The second thing that I thought was crazy was learning about Brooke Berringer and Tommy Frazier and the quarterback battle that went on between those guys leading up to the national championship. Like, I had no idea. Like, I still, like, up to going to the documentary, I didn't really know the Brooke Berringer and Tommy Frazier story, or at least the first half of it. And I guess I'll get to know the second half, which is
there's
tragedy.
a lot more.
But that was just like, whoa, I got to see it, like, what it actually was. And that was fascinating. Like, it was like, holy crap. And, you're sitting there, like, I'm sitting there as a person who didn't live through it. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I'm in conflict. Like, do we put Berringer in? Do we put Tommy in? Like, what, like, I guess but it was one interception. It was one interception in practice that basically decided between the two. But then, Tom Osborne was like, all right, well, you're going to have the first quarter, you're going to have the second quarter. And based on who performs well between those two things, is going to decide the rest of the game. And one of the things that was neat about that was learning about the coaches, and what we discussed afterwards was their institutional knowledge of being able to make those during the moment calls, of being able to interpret what's happening on the field, who's in their right mindset, who has the best potential to do the right thing. And well, it ended up being Tommy Frazier when it was all said and done, and we pulled it off. That was super neat.
We definitely needed both. There was no doubt that
it's amazing that Frazier wins the MVP in that game when he basically only played a total of a quarter.
Yeah.
He played 2 series in the first quarter, then he didn't play again until halfway through the fourth quarter. And he wins the MVP because
what he did
when you needed him, you got him. I was really hoping they would have confirmed for me the story that you've heard for years since that game, where Frazier comes back into the game and Warren Sapp says something like, "Hey, where you been?" And Frazier got up to the line, getting ready to snap the ball, and says, "Hey, fat boy, it ain't been where I've been, it's where I'm going." I don't know if that's true or if that's just, legend or whatever, but I was kind of hoping they would either confirm or deny that happened, but that they didn't talk about that I recall anyway in the movie. But your point's well taken, Scott.
Which is crazy, because if he does say that, before the first play, which I mean, yeah, I've heard that's folklore now since, and I'm going to just assume it's true.
He got thrown for a loss.
Yeah, he got thrown for a loss
That first game
by
play.
Warren Sapp. They didn't block him on the play, so that would have been a little interesting first play. But and that's the thing, we didn't even. I don't think we got a first down on his first drive back. And if you remember watching the game live, Chris Collinsworth, who was doing the game, was very clear that he thinks they should put Brooke Behringer right back onto the field again. So that Tommy and the speed of the defense is just too much for what Tommy can do offensively, and it's all the more just the way that Osborne handled it.
Yeah.
He knew that he was going to have to play both. They both played a key role. We don't win that game if Brooke doesn't come in and do the things he did. He helped calm the waters. Think about his situation. He walked into a game down 10-0.
Yeah.
With all this momentum and everything going Miami's way, took us down the field. We scored the touchdown to make it 10-7, and things kind of get righted a little bit. But we had a couple turnovers in the third quarter, and the interception that he threw. I mean, you think about it. He threw an interception, and boom, he was off the field. And Osborne. That's the reality of you have expectations that you need to play up to. And if you don't, there is another guy that can come onto the field. And that's what pulled him out, was making that mistake. And so, I don't know how you apply that to today. I mean, we've had times where we've had quarterbacks that have played for 3-4 years in a row, and it seems like, what can you do to get them off the field? Well, mistakes will be the thing that did. That's how Osborne, treated his players and coached his players, and seemed to work for him.
Yep, absolutely. Do you have anything else, Scott, that was on your mind there? Did we derail you?
Just the only third thing I had, which was just super short and really just, it was just kind of like a woo, so the guy who does my haircut, Riley Washington, he was on those earlier teams, got to experience some of the greatness, and gets me some really fresh haircuts, and he and I had talked about it a few haircuts ago, about that I was excited to see the movie, and he was so humble. He never even mentioned to me that he was going to be in the documentary, or even had any part of the documentation. And so it was neat seeing him make his comments about Tommy Frazier and Brooke Behringer and the quarterback battle that was going on between the two of them, and so shout out to Riley, stand up dude. Can't wait to get another haircut and be like, hey, you son of a gun, why are you so humble? Why didn't you tell me you were going to be in it? I would have gone anyway, but
right.
That was pretty much.
I think a lot of it is the former players. They don't want to have to stay constantly connected to the glory, right? I think a lot of them we just like being in Lincoln. We just like being around the school and the people and whatnot. We just want to be people with you. I think that's kind of the way Riley is wired.
Because I talked with him a few haircuts in a row. I talked to him about Husker football, and he and I would just BS about it. And it wasn't until like the third haircut that I got that he just casually mentioned, like, I played in the 90s. And I was like, oh, hey, what? and then found out later that, a few people that we know, mutual friends, knew that and could have told me that. But it's just cool. I don't know. I don't have really much else to say about it, but it was just like, oh yeah, good for you, man. Good for you.
I ran into years ago in Grand Island, Honke. You'll get a kick out of this. It was right after the 95 national championship. You had the take and bake pizza joint, Papa Murphy's. There in Grand Island, and it was really good back then. I don't know what they did. They changed their ingredients or whatever, but it's god awful now. But I was standing in line. I'd ordered something, and lo and behold, I look up. I'm standing next to Phil Ellis. He's got a big old dip of skull in his mouth, and I'm like, holy cow, you're Phil Ellis. He goes, yep. I said, so let me in on, just give me a little taste. What really was it like playing for Coach McBride? And he said, man, that man loved you like nobody else did, but doggone it, he'd get on your ass like nobody else did either. He said, you took a cussing from Charlie McBride. You thought you just got dressed down by a drill sergeant. And I'm like, sounds about right. That's what I figure. And then he got his pizza, and I'd ordered mine before his. He got his pizza, and he goes up and he goes, thank you. Hey, this guy over here ordered a pizza before me. Why don't you make sure he's taken care of too? And I was like, that was kind of cool, just dressed in his farm clothes and mud and crap all over his boots. And he just stood there and talked with me for 15 minutes like I was kind of a dude he's always known. He's just one of those guys. And back in those days, God, we talked about it. I think Friday night that, a lot of those guys on those teams, a lot of those starters on both offense and defense lived here. They were in Nebraska. They were the backbone of the team. And that day and age, unfortunately, I don't think is nearly what it's going to be back then from now on. I mean, with the age of the transfer portal and with all those things that are going on now, but I don't know about you guys. I think we kind of alluded to it earlier, the part 2. I can't wait, but yet at the same time, it's going to be hard reliving some of that stuff. Reliving the Lawrence Phillips stuff, knowing how his story ended, which wasn't good. And then reliving, of course, the loss of Brooke Behringer. That's going to be difficult. But at the same time, we're probably going to get an interesting players level perspective on the Miracle in Missouri, which will be a lot of fun. So anyway, I don't know. I don't think there's really a whole lot left to say, right? Unless you guys have a couple of closing thoughts.
It's a great movie. I mean, definitely, I think any Husker fan, out there that whether you experienced it personally, like Ken, you and I did, or Scott, if you don't remember it personally, it's any Husker fan should want to see that kind of that era and see what it took. Just to put myself in your perspective, Scott, I love going back and watching the game of the century. I love watching things about the Devaney era, stuff that was before my time too. It's just the historian guy in me. And I think it's important for people to Husker fans to know what it was like. So when you hear about people saying, you're not a blue blood anymore and all that kind of stuff, there's a reason why we still are on those all-time winning lists. There's a reason why we still come up on blue blood lists. And it is because there was 45 years of unprecedented success in a row that went on. And one of the reasons that we had that kind of success was that we had continuity of coaches, and we didn't go through coaches every 4 years. And those are some things that you can learn from here too. And learning from history can help you frame your mindset today too. So
absolutely.
There were fans that called for Devaney's head back after 68 and had a petition to get rid of him in Omaha. There was fans that wanted Osborne gone after every one of those Oklahoma losses. And after every one of those bowl losses, that didn't matter. Didn't matter that you were playing Miami in Miami or Florida State in Miami. Didn't matter. It was first world problems that we had as Husker fans because we were unhappy at 9 and 10 wins, and because that's all we were ever given. Constantly at least minimum 9 wins, and so we were pretty spoiled there for quite a while. And I think we can get back to that point. I really do, and I also think when we do get back to that point, we're going to really appreciate it a hell of a lot more than we did before. So,
years ago when we started really struggling under Callahan and then even subsequently under Bo at times, I'd make the comments to friends of mine that I thought in some sense that the success, that 60-3 record over those 5 years was the worst thing that could have happened to this fan base, because now we expect that 60-3 is just something we should get here and there every 15-20 years. And that was so unprecedented at the time. It's obviously unprecedented now. Even St. Nick hasn't been able to accomplish 60 wins in 5 years with only 3 losses. Granted, we play more games now, so there is a little bit of a difference. But, I've always said in some ways we got so spoiled by that era. But at the same time, I think we lack the appreciation for what it took to get there. And the fact that we didn't do it like everybody else did. We didn't do it with the fun and gun offense that Spurrier was running. In fact, we made that offense look like the Chuck and Duck in the in that Fiesta Bowl in '95, which, God, I can't wait to watch that again. So I guess I'd just wrap it up by saying one of the most poignant statements I ever heard after that 94 national championship was at the championship celebration in Devaney Center. I watched it on TV that morning. Rob Zadiska stood up and he said that Osborne was quoted during the season as saying that it's not really winning the national title that means the most. It's what you do on the way to winning the national title that means the most. And I thought that was really poignant. It's how you do it. It's not the fact that you did it. It's how you do it the right way, not the easy and convenient way. And I thought that was pretty impressive. So I guess with that, guys, Honke, where can folks find you and your mates there at the Redcast?
Just same old at Go Big Redcast on all the social media platforms, and we're building up the YouTube page. So head to YouTube and click subscribe, and you can watch our interview with Osborne last week and some of the other ones
that was great.
So
that was an outstanding interview.
Thank you.
That one and Damon Benning, you guys were that was a fantastic conversation with Damon. Really, really enjoyed that one. So really appreciate you hanging out with us too. So
I had a blast. I guess my parting shot with you guys is I had a blast on Friday night. It was a lot of fun. I love talking Husker football with Husker fans, and so that's right. You guys fit the bill, and I love going and having some scotch and old fashions and all that. And I mean, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, I could do that. More than I should probably, but it's a lot of fun. So,
yep, absolutely.
Well, we had a blast.
We did too, man. That's our parting shot. Would be the fact that you would take some time out of your week to hang out with us and go see a movie. It was awesome, and I knew that'd be right in your wheelhouse. So appreciate you going with us.
Yeah, thanks for the tickets. I mean, I
the fun.
That.
That's nothing, my friend. That was well deserved. And Scott and I can be found at all the same places. We're there on Twitter and Facebook at GenRedPod and GenRedPod Live right here on YouTube. And of course, GenRedPod.com is our website where you can listen, download, subscribe via the links provided. And you can even follow us on Facebook and Twitter via the links right there on the website. So don't even bother trying to look for us on Facebook. Just go to GenRedPod.com. It's easiest that way. And until next time, we're here to remind you that Iowa's corn still sucks, and there is no place like Nebraska.
Go Big Red.
GBR.
Go Big Red.
Snap is down. The kick is up. Kick is get that way. The kick is good. Throws batted down. Left it to Damakatsu. Two to the 20. 15. Hawkins